Welcome to another Bigfoot Encounters report presented by the Crypto Crew. Bigfoot sightings from Morton. Morton is a city located in Lewis County, in the state of Washington. It was first settled in 1871 by James Fletcher. Morton is a mountain lover's paradise. Located along the White Pass Highway in mountain foothills, this town inspires people to get outdoors and fish, ski or camp. It is also home to numerous Bigfoot sightings and encounters. It was either 1992 or 1993 when Annette Crews was out hiking and thought she saw a bear coming down an opposite hillside. As she pulled out her camera to try to get a picture of it, she suddenly realized that bear was walking on two legs. She took the picture solely to capture this strange bipedal figure coming down the hillside. Unfortunately, the camera had no zoom lens. A series of shots were taken, but only two have been evaluated by an independent researcher. The researcher stated that they could see definite changes in position from one shot to the next, which eliminated a mistaken tree, stump or rock. The general consensus is that Annette Crews photographed a Bigfoot that day. But this sighting was not the only reported sighting in this area during that time period. In the fall of 1990, Robert Jackson and his cousin were camping while hunting on Cougar Mountain. They were descending the slope and were around a half-mile from the crest. Deciding to take a rest, they sat down under a large fir tree with their backs to the trunk, facing downhill. They had been sitting for about 5 minutes when they heard something large behind them and to the right. The sounds came from several hundred yards away. Tree limbs were snapping and treetops seemed to be knocking together. Then they heard a sound. It started out as a loud low moan which quickly changed into a high-pitched scream. The call lasted about 15 to 30 seconds. This cry was unlike any animal either of the men had ever heard before. About 2 or 3 minutes later they heard the scream again. Only this time it was much louder, seeming to come from just on the other side of the tree. They were frightened and froze. Everything around them seemed to have gone silent. Then the two heard something large crunching through the brush moving away from their location. The two got up and ran back up the slope to find the rest of the hunting party. Within 15 to 20 minutes of reaching the others on the logging road, they saw a herd of 7 or 8 deer come up the slope and dash across the road. They were coming from the same area that the two men had just left. The deer seemed frightened and not looking around them. They were just running and even passed within 5 yards of some of the men. Within minutes, these same deer ran back over the road and into a wide open clear cut. While making his report, Jackson also commented that around 1992 or 1993, his cousin Ed Taylor and a friend were deer hunting along a forest road in the same general area. They could hear something crashing through the underbrush along the road. Later, when they came back to the area, they found large footprints in the mud. In October 1990, Mr. C and a friend were out cutting cedar shale blocks with a power saw. It was a cool morning, around 10 a.m. Although there was a light rain, there was no wind. The witness was powering down the saw as he neared the end of a cut when they heard some sort of a scream. It came from down below them, sounding like someone screaming for help. The cry was long and drawn out and loud enough to be heard over the sound of the power saw. Mr. C turned off the saw and the two men stopped to listen. It was about 2 minutes later when they heard another scream. He turned to his friend and asked what was that. They both thought it was strange how loud the screams were. 5 minutes later there was a third scream. The two men waited, listening for around another half hour. There were no more screams. When telling his dad about the experience, the father told him that around a month prior he had heard something screaming as if it were in distress. This occurred close to the area the others were cutting the cedar shale blocks. In all, 3 generations of the family, living there in the area, have heard these vocals. They are all familiar with cougar screams. These particular screams did not come from cougars. Around 1994 in the summer, Ms. W and a friend were sitting out in the yard at 10:30 p.m. It was a clear night. The moonlight was bright and there were lots of stars out. As they sat there, they began to hear some movement in the apple trees bordering the lawn. It sounded like fruit being snapped off the branches. They decided to investigate. When the two got within 15 feet of the tree, the noises stopped. They could see a large, pale animal on 2 legs behind the tree. It seemed to pay no attention to them as it stepped out from the tree and loped across the highway. They could hear a swish, swish, swish sound that seemed to come from the feet of the figure. It sounded like someone rubbing 2 pieces of sandpaper together. As it ran, the legs remained straight and the figure took long strides. The left arm swung in huge, deliberate strokes. There was no sound, only the sound of the feet. There was no labored breathing. The figure was pale-colored, like a dirty white. It had long slender arms and legs and was not fat or bulky. The hair on the legs looked to be around 5 to 6 inches long and moved with the leg movements. The witness could also see the hand swing in large, forceful movements. It appeared to be holding something in its hand. The witness thought probably apples. The next day they found some tracks. They did not look like the usual tracks that are talked about and shown on TV. They looked more like scuff marks, like dragging feet. That would fit in with the sound they said they heard as the figure ran off. The crab apple tree had a section of broken branches and pieces of apple lying on the ground. Witnesses ZO and RC had a different encounter at the end of June, 1996. The two had spent the day fishing at the duck ponds on private land and were on their way out when they heard splashing coming from a large pond off to the west of the road. Curious, they went over to check it out. In the far corner of the pond was what appeared to be a Sasquatch in water up to his chest. He had his back to the witnesses and was walking in the water. His hands were underwater, but he would bring them up and slap the water, making the splashing sound they had heard. ZO and RC took off running to a nearby friend's house where they told their story. They were approximately 125 yards away from the figure. It was dark in color and had broad shoulders. No other features could be seen as the figure had his back to them and was in water up to his chest. The two knew the Sasquatch had to be very tall and large, as the water in that particular pond area would have been over the witnesses' heads. This area of Washington was active before the 1990s and continues to have reported encounters throughout the years up to current times. These reports presented by Crypto Crew team member Nancy Marietta. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notifications bell. Find more reports in our sightings map at thecryptocrew.com. If you have had a sighting or encounter, then please contact us via our website. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.